Well, what is something in common with all of these machines right here? Yes, they are all mowers. However, we have one rider and we have two that are push or self-propelled mowers. Well, they're all mowers and they're also all powered by batteries. Now, why does that make a difference? And when we're talking about blades, why does that make a difference? And let's get into it. So not only are we going to talk about sharpening blades today, we're definitely going to get into that in just 1 minute, and that's going to go very quick. But we're also going to talk about balancing a blade. And do you need a balancer? And is it critical to balance blades? We're also going to talk about abrasives, and we're also going to talk about weight. Now let's get into cordless mowers or battery-powered mowers. More and more we're seeing those, whether it be push model, whether it be a zero turn, whether it be joystick model like the Ryobi we have sitting here. Doesn't matter most of the time when you look underneath a residential style cordless or battery powered mower, you will find blades like these 4 blades right here in front of you. And these are from 3 different manufacturers. This is an Ego, these 2 are from Ryobi, they kind of stack on top of one another, and this is from the Milwaukee. Now the one we have back here, this is from a commercial gas powered zero turn. And even though the length may be about the same as compared to the Ego and the Milwaukee, still quite a bit different of a blade. And I'll show you that in a couple of different reasons in just one moment. Now, also when we talk about abrasives, we can do everything from your typical iron oxide wheel that you'll get with most of your grinders, or we can talk about a flap disc like you see here. Or even into ceramic wheels, which I think this is my favorite for doing this because it does it really, really quickly. But before we do that, let's look at weight on these mower blades. So when we actually just sharpen a blade, when we get done with it, is it critical that they balance out? And we're going to show you how to balance. And the answer is yes, and even so more critical when it comes to these battery-powered systems, because obviously, you're using a small battery to power these. They're looking for the most efficiency possible, so you get the longest run time as well as a good cut quality. So one of the places that they kind of make things more efficient is on that blade. It's not near as thick or near as heavy. So let's bring in our weight machine, or scales, be a better term. And we've got it on pounds and ounces. And so this is from a 60-inch Exmark 27 horsepower zero turn mower, 24 horse, something like that. Anyway, 2 pounds, 8.5 ounces on that blade. Okay. So missing an ounce on one side or another, or a half ounce, probably not a big deal on something that weighs over 2.5 pounds, right? However, we take this Ryobi blade here, we put it on here, and now we're not even a pound. We're at right at 15 ounces. So now all of a sudden, when we have a half ounce difference on one side or the other, that is going to cause an imbalance issue, and it's just not going to run as efficiently. And then when you take this, and by the way, this blade actually kind of stacks on top of one another, thing like that. And you see the shapes actually line up. And so again, when you have some ounces different on those two, you can cause, again, inefficiencies and even a wobble in there, which you don't want. So it's more critical on these cordless mowers or these battery-powered mowers to actually get them sharp as well as get them balanced. Now, do not let this process scare you. This is a very simple process to do, and in fact, we'll probably do each one of these blades in a matter of a couple of minutes, especially when you're using good hardware and even good accessories. So right here, I've got a couple of grinders. It doesn't matter. You can buy a cheap old Harbor Freight corded grinder if you want to. I've got the Flex 24-volt grinder here and the Milwaukee Fuel 18-volt grinder there, cordless grinders. I think they're very handy and they definitely get the work done. As I mentioned earlier, we got a flap disc here, which is basically a bunch of sandpaper that's stacked on top of one another. That's a very good disc to use. This is your typical, I believe it's iron oxide disc that you typically get in any grinder box, and you can buy on any shelf, any hardware store, Walmart, about anywhere you walk into, you can buy those. That will work good too. It's probably not as forgiving and probably actually not as fast either. This is Flex's version of a flap disc. And by the way, it gives you the ability to actually see through it as you're using it. And it actually works pretty well. But my favorite is this Metabo Speed Flex wheel. It's a ceramic disc. But we'll use a little of each of these to show you. But any of these are going to work for you. They absolutely will. But if you want a better quality than your just typical grinding disc, then step up to a flap disc or a SpeedFlex disc. Okay, you can buy different gauges and different machinery to help you keep the right angle on this, but I'm telling you, with a little bit of practice, you don't need any of those gadgets. Just going to take me a speed clamp and clamp my blade right there onto my work surface. And now here is our blade that we have to sharpen. Now, some of your blades may be nice and flat. This has got some profile to it. This is the Milwaukee blade. And so it kind of raises up right here. But I'm just going to follow that contour. I'm going to lay that grinder down at the right profile. And I think the angle is optimal at, like, 28 to 32 degrees. But again, I'm just going to follow what's already on there. Now I'm going to use that Metabo wheel first. And you see, you don't have to go hard at it. You can just follow that in one direction if you want to. And you can see there with just a couple of passes that we're almost all the way finished. Now I've still got kind of it's really not a sharp edge yet. I'm going to do it a couple more times. Flip my blade around. Now I'll use the flap disc. You can see here the Flex flap disc. You can see the gaps in it and how you can just kind of see all the way through it. You can see it's probably not quite as fast, but it's probably a little more forgiving. So a flat disc is going to be a little more forgiving, but not quite as quick as that ceramic disc. But you see, again, a few passes, I'm already there. So now the only thing I'm going to do is flip that blade upside down. And now there's a little bit of a burr here from sharpening the other side. I'm literally just going to lay it nice and flat. Knock that burr off. And now we've got a nice sharp edge and ready to go. Flip it around, do the opposite side. Again, just keep it nice and flat on that profile. Make sure that burr's gone. Make sure I've got a nice sharp edge. We're ready to go. And now we'll take our Ryobi blade. Pretty much the same process. And you see here's our edge that's not sharp at all. It's nice and rounded. We'll use the ceramic disc again. I've got a little nick right here. I'm really not worried about it, but now I've got a little burr on the underside from sharpening that, but I think we've got that where we want it. Flip it over, get the burr. A little bit of a burr there. And there we have it. Nice sharp blade. Now I'm just going to shut up right here and sharpen both sides of this blade and hit the underside, get it finished, start to finish, and see how long this takes me. And I'm going to use the flat disc to do it, okay? And here we go. I'm going to start right now. So that was all of 1.5 minutes to do all that. So 90 seconds to put a nice clean edge on that blade and clean off the burr on the back side. All we have to do is balance it, but 90 seconds to do that. Now let's talk about this one. As you can see right here, not in good shape whatsoever. By the way, there's rust on my hand, not blood. You can see big chunks out of this. We're going to sharpen this. Probably not smart to sharpen it. Go replace this. I think this blade is somewhere between $21 and $27. It's an Ego blade. It has seen its share of either hitting rocks or something to really take some chunks out of that blade. Somebody has misused that for sure. But in this situation, if you have a big, whether it be a chip missing or you have something where it hit and it's just kind of mushroomed, the first thing we want to do is hit the back side of this. Again, I'm going to recommend this be replaced, but we're just going to do it just because. So I want that nice and flat, just like we'd be deburring it. But before we start, I want it nice and flat. By the way, I think this thing is kind of twisted up too. So again, this is just for you to see, but definitely recommend replacing this. Now I'll flip this over. Same drill. I'm not going to try to take all of that out. If it were a small nick, I might try to do it, but I don't think it makes a big deal. You just want this blade nice and sharp. It doesn't have to be like a razor blade. Now, even though we flattened it in the beginning on the back side, we're going to go ahead and make sure our burrs are all gone on the back side as well. Good sharp here, right there, not so much. And now we're ready for balancing. Now look at there, in a matter of minutes, even with me running my mouth and even with this nice old chunky blade there, it was still a little warm, we got all 4 of those blades done. Now this is for 3 mowers because, as I mentioned on the Ryobi Zero Turn, it actually stacks up on one side. And Ego's got a select mower that does the same thing. So there's several mowers that actually stack their blades on top of one another to give you a better cut and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, but regardless, we got all 4 of these done in a matter of minutes. It does not take long to do. Now, before we balance, I did want to show you one more thing. Now, we saw the weight difference on these, but just want to show you. So here's a Milwaukee. It's at 0.12, so 120 thousandths of an inch, okay? So a little over 1/10 of an inch. And 107 thousandths on that one. And the Ego, probably about the same. Yeah, 123 thousandths. And then the gas-powered industrial, 200 thousandths. So basically, almost double the thickness on some of these for what would be on a standard gas-powered mower versus a cordless or versus a battery powered mower. So again, showing you the how critical it is to make sure not only these are sharp to be efficient, but also balanced. So let's get to balancing. Now you can buy one of these little dealies, I think on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. I may have paid $10 for 2 of these, and literally I got it just for this. But I'm probably not even going to use it, because when I put it on here, and there's nothing wrong with it, you can definitely do it, because what it will do is tell you of whether or not you're balanced. So you can see when you put the blade on here, you want to make sure it's centered in the hole. And then you can see we got a heavy side over here, how far it's sticking up over here and how far it's sticking up here. And so basically we would take the heavy side and we would grind some off. Now we don't have to grind on our sharpened face. You don't have to do that at all. You could actually remove it from right here if you wanted to. You could, come in here and grind a little bit off, but basically grind off your heavy side until you're balanced out. And by the way, all I did was take a magnet and put it on there to make that not balanced. See, that's why it's leaning. If I take this off, you can see we're pretty much dead on. Now, what I don't like about this is it's got a stepped comb, and so it doesn't fit perfect on some of the blades. And so, you have the chance of it getting a little wonky and not going on there. You can take something much more simple, like a piece of wood, 2x4, or even the side of your workbench, and drive a nail or a screw in there, preferably a nail, something with a smooth shank on it, especially not any ring shanks or something, or sand it off. Anyway, regardless, as round as possible, and drive that nail on the side of your workbench or a smooth shank screw, something like that, and it will work just as good. So you can see here, here's the blade we just sharpened. Looks like it may be a little heavy. You want to make sure it's at the peak of your circle. I think we're pretty much dialed in, but again, put my magnet on there and you can see that we don't balance out anymore. But quickly you can put these up there and make sure that you're balanced and ready for to mow the yard. Again, if we were out of balance, it would show. That one looks good too. How about our really messed up ego here that we like to mow rocks with? It's actually not too bad. Looks like we could probably take a little weight out of this side over here. And that's looking better. So you can see I actually took the weight, or I actually ground it right there on the mulching tips, not actually on the blade side. So again, you just want to take weight out of the side that's heavy. So there we have it. We have sharpened and balanced 4 blades, and different manufacturers, doesn't matter. You can use flat disc, use an iron oxide disc, you can use a ceramic disc. It doesn't matter what type of grinder you use. Use the tools that you have. I'm telling you, this will take just minutes and you'll be a happier mower. You'll be a happier end grass results type of guy or girl, because it's just, you're going to get a better result. It's going to be more efficient. You're not going to go through batteries as much. Your grass is going to look better. And all it took you was probably 10 minutes. Probably going to take you 3-4 minutes to get it off the mower. And after that, sharpen it, put it back on. But 10 minutes on a push mower and you're finished, and you've got a lot better results. Hey, be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, give us that thumbs up. And if you don't like our video, well, give us a thumbs down, but let us know in the comments why. We'll have links in the description if you're interested in any of these flap wheels, ceramic disc, or anything we've used here. Have a great one.